Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to Thoughts on Things. So you've decided you want to get started in investing, and you've signed up for an investment platform like Hargreaves Lansdown, and you've also decided you want to invest in the S&P 500. It should be really straightforward from here, right? Well, sadly it's not, but don't worry, because in today's video I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do so that you can make your first S&P 500 investment. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to tell you where I invest my own money, so make sure you stick around for that. Before we get started though, I'd really recommend watching my How to Get Started with Investing in 2021 video. It covers a lot of the basics you'll need to set up things, as well as some simple investment principles, so you can check that out here. Now that you've watched that, let's just quickly talk about what the S&P 500 is, and why, generally, it's considered a good investment to make over the long term. The S&P 500 is a collection of the 500 biggest companies listed on the US stock exchange. That essentially means it's a bet on the biggest companies in America. Over the last 10 years, the S&P 500 has grown roughly 10% per year. Just to show you what that would mean if you'd invested back in 2010, let's just have a look at this example I've created. So let's assume your starting amount is $5,000 in 2010, and let's assume an average return of 10% per year. Compounded over a 10-year period, your total portfolio in 2020 would have been worth almost $18,000. That's 3.5 times what it originally was, which is pretty cool. Secondly, let's talk about how you can actually invest in the S&P 500. Well, you could go through the list and manually buy stocks in the 500 biggest companies in America, one by one. But apart from this being incredibly boring, it's also not a smart move at all, as the makeup of the list can change over time. Companies can move in and out of the list. Instead, what you need to do is invest in an index fund which tracks the companies in the S&P 500 for you and automatically invests or divests in the right stocks at any given moment of time on your behalf. Again, I cover this in my investment basics video, so go and watch that if you want more info on what an index fund is. So now that we've established you need to invest in an index fund, how do you know which one to invest in? If you go to your investment platform, here we're using Hargreaves Lansdown as an example, and search for S&P 500 in the funds section, there's an overwhelming list of different funds. So how do we know which one to select? Well, there's a number of things to consider here. Firstly, while in theory all of these funds track the S&P 500, their performance can actually vary and be different depending on the accuracy of how well the fund actually tracks the S&P 500. This sounds crazy, but this is a really important point. So what you need to research is which funds historically have tracked the S&P 500 most accurately. Secondly, not all funds have the same fees, so you're going to want to look for a fund where the fees are relatively low. Most index funds will charge a small management fee, so make sure you look at the cheapest fees for index funds, as there's very little active management actually going on. Thirdly, you need to consider your location. If you're not in the US, like me, you'll need to search for what's known as an ETF, or an exchange traded fund. In addition to this, as I've spoken about in my previous video, it's smart to look for a fund that is hedged in your currency to account for exchange rate fluctuations. Finally, you need to consider whether you want an accumulator or a distributing fund. If you want to generate regular income from your portfolio, go for distributing ETFs. They transfer cash straight to your investment account where you can withdraw it or spend it on the good things in life. If you want to maximize your investment returns, accumulating ETFs are the best choice by far, as they automatically reinvest your income back into the fund at no extra expense. This compounds your returns, saves you time, and spares you dealing fees. It's important to make the right decision for you on this, as income is a vital part of any investment strategy. Whether you need it now or can save it for later, that's really up to you. However, if possible, I really would recommend accumulating funds. So now that we've gone through those considerations, I'd encourage you to do your own research. But to save you a bit of time, I wanted to recommend a couple of specific funds to consider. The first is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, and this is where I invest my own money. Vanguard was the original index fund and still has the largest assets under management with around $500 billion. It has one of the cheapest fees and it has an average annual return of 16.08%, compared with 16.12% for the S&P 500, which is a pretty accurate match. Warren Buffett himself has recommended this fund and it's probably the best overall tracker of the S&P 500. The one limitation of the Vanguard ETF is that it requires a minimum investment of $3,000. So if you don't have that or you don't want to invest that much just yet, there's actually another fund I'd recommend, the iShares Core S&P 500 ETF, and I'll link to both of these funds below. The iShares Core S&P 500 ETF was founded back in 2000. It's a really good option and has the added benefit of having no minimum threshold investment amount, so you can invest as little as you want in order to get started. So guys, that's everything I wanted to cover today. Hopefully that's helped you make your first investment in the S&P 500, and I hope the explanations weren't too complicated. Let me know if you guys found this useful, and if there's anything else you wanted to know more about, just leave me any questions in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and remember to subscribe for more.